Hey Flock, Mike here from Epic Duck Studios, and welcome to my new weekly recap show, Here's What Quackened. Yeah, there's a duck pun in there. So, what I'm going to be doing is basically just going over what I painted in the previous week and talking about what my plans are for the next week. And it's going to be an ongoing thing. I'm basically going to try and do this after my stream every Tuesday. And so that's going to also include what I did for that Tuesday, but I'm going to roll back just a little bit further for this first one and include a few projects I started just prior to that kind of window. Because I actually planned on originally recording this last night, and it just didn't happen. So first and foremost, right on the deck, is Rocket Raccoon. And now I've actually painted this miniature twice in the past 2 weeks, or rather 2 copies of this miniature. The first one was a commission for one of my fans, and he actually had painted all his own Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff, but just decided that Rocket was a little bit too small and finicky, and he wanted some help with it, so I took that on for him. And I liked what I did with his so much, I decided to do the same with my own, because I was actually really stumped how I wanted to paint Rocket. So I've got him in something comparable to his Quantum suit from Endgame. You know, it's not exactly the same because, of course, he's not sculpted with that in mind, but I brought in as much of at least the color palette and the kind of like the shape language as I could, so that he at least visually is in the Quantum suit, even if it doesn't exactly translate detail for detail. If you followed my other Marvel stuff, I've always done the bases either in, you know, blue for heroes, red for villains, and yellow for undecided, like Venom, who is kind of more anti-hero than anything else, but neither really good nor bad. So when I started working on Black Panther and the other Wakandan pieces, you've got an affiliation there, the Wakandan affiliation, which contains both Black Panther and Killmonger, one of which is a hero and one of which is clearly a villain. At least, as far as MCU goes, I don't really know those characters outside of the movies, so maybe there's, you know, some deeper lore, and you know, maybe they change alliances a little bit here and there. But point being, they're again kind of like a conglomeration of neither heroes nor villains. It's a little bit of both. And I didn't want to do the whole Wakandan group in yellow, so I chose to do them in purple because it really suited Black Panther's own painting. And what I decided at that point then is that color was going to denote affiliation as opposed to alignment, we'll say. So I decided I'm going to use the teal for the Guardians of the Galaxy affiliation. What that means is I'm going to have to go back to some of my existing Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff and change up the color of their base rims. I'll do that as the affiliations kind of become relevant. It's not something that's going to prevent me from playing with them, so if I don't get to it, I don't get to it. It's not the end of the world. But I picked this one because the teal kind of factored into that sort of 80s synthwave vibe that some of the Guardians of the Galaxy poster artwork had. And I thought it was just a really cool extra color to bring in that just isn't present on any of my other models here. So there's comic style, Quantum suit, Rocket, all wrapped up. And I'm really happy he's ready for the table. So next up is a test model I did for a Lumineth Realm Lords commission. And the client's approved this, he's really happy with it, so I'm going to go forward with the rest of the box in this scheme. It's actually this little bit of flock from Gamer's Grass that inspired me to use the purple on the rest of the model here. This is just a tuft of stick-on flowers, and I've got some of the little micro tufts, or tiny tufts they call them, just kind of filling out the base. Because I like them because they're nice and short. A lot of the different grass tufts you get are very, very tall. You know, they almost come up to like the knee or even the waist on some models, and I like these little short patches of grass instead. It feels more like the grass is really trying really hard to exist in a well-beaten, well-worn area. So this is actually a combination of a lot of detail painting and some contrast paint work. Like you'll see on the scale mail here, that's actually just thinned down Talassar blue over Runefang steel. And this area here as well is Skeleton Horde over the base coat. And the base coat was mostly done with rattle cans and a little bit of dry brushing. And you can actually see that same base coat coming through in a lot of the armor. The sort of the more interior surfaces here, I haven't really painted them. That's just the result of dry brushing on first was Ushabti Bone, followed by Deepkin Flesh, to just get this sort of like a sandstone kind of base coat. And then highlights were added on with first Deepkin Flesh by hand, and then a little bit of white to just bring out the edges of the armor. So yeah, we're going to be continuing with this project. There's, you know, the whole rest of the box there. So 9 more of these dudes, 5 cavalry, and the Light of Eltharion all to go. So you'll be seeing them over the next couple weeks. The next thing I painted up was Leadfoot and Treads for Riot Quest, and I actually got in a game for the first time in 4 months and managed to field this piece, so I'm glad I got him done in time. This is for my own Riot Quest collection, which I've been doing in sort of a Borderlands-inspired theme. So the coloring here was inspired by the Vladof weapons in Borderlands. Now, it's not directly taken because, of course, there's not like a Vladof tank I could steal things from. But the red, the heavy use of gray and black, and then the star motif is all just sort of reminiscent of Vladof. It also makes it feel a little bit Khador-ish, which kind of does and doesn't work because, of course, they have nothing to do with Khador and probably hate them on principle, but there it is. I think it works pretty well. This is one of the first pieces I did where I kind of tried doing a hybrid approach to comic style as well, where I've done a lot of black lining just in this sort of upper area, so on the, the armor panels, the character, and sort of just around the gun barrel. And the rest of this, I just relied on black washes to kind of hide details and hide the fact I wasn't lining it. So a lot of this model just kind of fades into obscurity and isn't really lined, but because so much of it is, it just kind of feels like it all works together. So I think I'm going to use that technique, especially on larger pieces like Helga on Wheels, for example. Pieces that have a lot of detail saturation, and some of it's just kind of like not important to the character of the piece. Also for Riot Quest, this is going to be a theme for a little while, I finished up Harlow Hold'em High. Actually finished him on the stream this morning, but he was done except for his base prior to that. And really happy with how this one came out. This is one of the first pieces where I did a lot of texturing before I did the black lining. You can see there's actually, a fair bit of stippled texture to the leather here. And that actually really harkens back to the Borderlands artwork style, because in Borderlands, if you take away the black lining from all the texture, they have a very painted kind of feel. They don't feel cel-shaded, because they're not. It's all sort of more watercolory than anything. And so I wanted to start playing with that a little bit more, doing a little bit less in the solid colors and a little more with some texturing. So that was what really inspired me to do Harlow here. The other great thing is that he is like 90% this jacket, so I was able to just throw down a whole bunch of, brown dry brushing and stippling, and then just pick out the details around it. So it was pretty simple to work on this piece. He only took maybe 2.5 hours. The smallest piece I did this week was just one of the treasure chest tokens for Riot Quest. This actually required a little bit of sculpting work because there was a big mold line running right through here, because the mold gate actually was attached to the side instead of the bottom. You see, I never bothered finishing the bottom, and I just don't see a need to. So yeah, this was kind of a quick paint job, just slap some colors on it towards the end of a show just to have this ready for the table, but it does the job. It looks pretty reasonable. I'm happy enough with it. A quick little win was just updating Iris's base. One thing I've been doing with my Riot Quest minis is including the class color on their bases. So you can see, for example, Gunners are color-coded orange, so I've got a little bit of orange on his base, whereas Scouts are color-coded yellow, so I brought yellow in on his. And I had painted her before I decided to do that, so her base always actually had purple on the front, and of course purple is the color for specialists in Riot Quest. So when I was finishing up Harlow, I just got her out and brought her base kind of in line with that new style as well. So that's going to be something I do just on a case-by-case basis with my older Riot Quest characters as I find the opportunity to do so. Now, there's a couple things I started in the past week and didn't get around to finishing. One was just a little personal project of mine, which was finally painting some of my Super Dungeon Explorer stuff. I've had Super Dungeon Explorer since version 1 came out, and I've basically painted nothing from it. I painted 3 or 4 of the heroes, and I think a Mimic, and that was it. So I decided this week I was finally going to put an end to that so I could play it fully painted. And so I started on the Kobolds. There's actually 6 of them, and they're all at this same state, except that I've started working on the base on 1. But there they are. These are all the Kobold Gougers, all painted to the same standard. Pretty quick and simple. They're not really comic style, but they're close enough that I could just spend some time with some black ink and get them there if I want to. And I think this is going to be something I do a little more often, is get pieces to a fully painted, kind of tabletop state, and then come in and do the black lining later when I want comic style out of them. But it means that I can get my games out a little bit more quickly. And I think one thing I'm really looking forward to doing with that is Warcaster. With Warcaster coming up, I've got the Eternus Continuum coming. And I really wanted to do them in comic style, but I also want to play the game as soon as possible. And if you've watched my shows, you know that comic style, it's very impactful in the tabletop, but it is not fast. Because you're basically painting every model twice. So you're doing all the color work, and then kind of effectively painting it again in black ink. And it's a slower process, of course, because of that. So what I'm thinking what I want to do is, I'm kind of working on a process what I call comic ready, which is where I get the model fully painted using, you know, brighter than average colors and get it ready to accept black ink, but don't actually work the ink in yet. And that way I can get them on the table, they look fine, they're good on camera, and I can then at my leisure go ahead and upgrade them down the road. And if I decide not to spend that time, they're at least already in a playable state. So it's a bit of a win. So these are sort of like a pilot of that project, is making sure that they, you know, look good even though the black inking isn't done. And I think it's successful. So now obviously these are not really a proxy for Aeternus Continuum Warcaster models, because they really have nothing in common whatsoever. But painting is painting, so we'll see how that goes. So now from today's show, since we just finished it, I started working on the Terrorizer. You see he's actually really close to done. I did all of the flesh just with a series of building up dry brushing. So it was Gravedigger Denim, followed by Underbelly Blue, followed by White. And then I took a little bit of thinned down Druchii Violet and just kind of brought that into some shadows. It's actually really similar to how I do skin tones on Legion of Everblight pieces. And then from there, picked out all the other details, did the highlighting, and started working in the black ink. And you can see the black ink is just the part I'm not quite done yet. Got probably 40 minutes to go plus the base, which of course he's not on yet. So this piece I'll probably wrap up on tomorrow's stream if you want to catch that. And from there, I'm not sure what I'm going to be working on next. We do have lots more of the Lumineth Realm Lords to work on. Like I say, he's one of 10 in the unit, so most of my week's probably going to be dedicated to that unit. But I probably want to try and get 1 or 2 more pieces done for Riot Quest as well. So one other project I'm probably going to take on this week is working on the Lotus Blade song from Relic Blade. And that's because I've got a game coming up with Ash this coming Friday to play some Relic Blade. We're playing it socially distanced now. We're at the opposite end of, you know, a 6-foot table, wearing masks, being as safe as we possibly can be while still making content for you guys. And of course for our own enjoyment. Let's not kid ourselves. Playing games is fun. That's why we do it. And so I'd like to have some of the new pieces for that show. So of course the Lotus Blade song is the newest model that's been released, and it'd be really cool to get that into a bat rep. So I'm going to try and paint that up probably Friday morning right before the show. We'll see how that goes, because that's going to be really pushing up against the deadline. But that's last week and this coming week in a nutshell. I'm going to be really pursuing Riot Quest for a little while, because I just really love playing Riot Quest. It is my favorite game right now. And I've got, I think, 6 or 7 pieces I haven't painted for it yet, plus there's a few more coming up. Like I haven't got the Wastelander or Meccano Shredder and a couple other little things like that. So I'm trying to play a little bit of catch up with those pieces now that gaming is possible again, at least at a reduced capacity. So expect to see a lot more of that, at least on my live shows. As far as YouTube goes, right now I'm in the process of editing the comic style Imperial Fist video. That started off as 6.5 hours of raw footage, and I've got that cut down right now to about 50 minutes, and I'm trying to get it down by about half again. Deciding what to cut is the hardest part. So what I'm doing at the moment, not this particular moment, but as soon as I'm done this video, is working through the process of narrating what I feel is important and then cutting the things that just don't fit towards the narration. So I'm hoping to have that up for Friday. It's been a slog. I've been editing that video for about 2 weeks. Now, these longer sort of start to end miniature videos I've done in the past, and I mean, they form the bulk of the content on my YouTube channel right now. I'm going to be doing less of them and more how to paint X, as in how to paint leather, how to paint fire, how to paint tongues, because those are a little bit more, first of all, search friendly. People are going to look for those on YouTube, because people are always trying to figure out how to paint a specific thing as opposed to a whole model. And it's also because I like to focus on models from smaller brands. You know, I don't paint a lot of GW stuff, and you know, when you're painting Imperial Fist Space Marines, that's fine as a keyword, but if you're painting, you know, the Moldorf Bibliothecary Part 2, the people that want to view that specific model is a much smaller segment than the people who want to look at Imperial Fist. But when you do something simple like how to paint yellow armor, it doesn't necessarily matter what model you're painting the yellow armor on. And so it opens up the opportunity for me to showcase models from smaller sculptors and smaller companies while still giving you guys really topical content. And so that's kind of my focus, I think, with all new videos I record. Now that said, I've still got dozens of videos I've filmed and have not edited. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mine those and see if there's anything really beneficial I can pull out of them, as opposed to just doing more of these, you know, start to finish whole model videos, because I'm finding those less and less useful for people. And I want what I make for you to be as beneficial as possible. So just some upcoming changes in how I'm going to be editing my videos and what they're kind of going to look like going forward. Alright, so that's last week's progress and review, and I'll look forward at what I'd like to get done next week. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, do something epic.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed that one, please hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so you get notifications when I post new videos in the future. If you want to take your support even further, you can do that at patreon.com/epicduck. Every little bit helps keep the lights on and the paint flowing, puts new models on the table so I can make interesting videos, and most importantly, puts a roof over my family's head and food on the table. You can also join me for live painting shows several times a week at twitch.tv/epicduckstudios. I'd love if you came by and watched the show sometime and followed the channel. I want to give a big thank you to everyone who's supported my content over the years, both past and present. It's been an absolutely wild ride, and I couldn't do this without all the wonderful fans and flockers out there. The hobby community is just an amazing group of people, and you really make this worth doing. So let's just keep on doing this together, making more content, and just being fantastic together for years to come. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, do something epic.